Okay, hi Prerna. Welcome to the Yogavani podcast. Very happy to have you here.
Hi, yes, of course. Quite a joy to be here as well.
Yeah. So I think we are recording this in the midst of Navaratri season, and festivities are happening all around. And I think one of the things I've noticed about this particular time of the year is there are a lot of articles and a lot of sharings that happen on social media around uh, the spiritual and the other imports of a time like this. So maybe
Yeah.
we can start our conversation with what yoga means for you, since we, apart from the professional aspects of it, at a personal level, when you connect to the term or when you think of yoga, what does it mean to you today?
On a personal level, yoga has been very healing. Because apart from teaching and providing the healing modalities and healing guidance to other people, I think it's done the same thing for me. So each time I do a practice, that practice could look like asanas or pranayama or simply just self awareness of some kind, or maybe applying a philosophical thought which could help me look at a situation from a different perspective. Everything leads to some kind of healing, some kind of progress, growth, or change that happens in the positive direction. So yoga for me has always been a journey of healing on every level and at different phases of my life.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I can say that one thing that it does for me the most.
very good to
Yeah,
know, because I think you're also one of the few yoga therapists qualified by IAYT in India, and
yeah,
I think this aspect of yoga as something which can work at a level of healing beyond an exercise is also not very well known. So,
yeah.
is there something that happened in your personal journey which made you explore something beyond the physical aspects of yoga and perhaps inspired you to become a therapist?
Yeah. Yes. So I had a couple of physical injuries, or I would, in fact, put it as a few like setbacks of some kind. And when that happened, I was advised to do yoga as the only form of exercise instead of anything else, like maybe dancing or whatever other physical activity I was doing at that point. Uh, I was asked to put a stop on it and just continue only with yoga. So I didn't know exactly what and how it was going to help me, because I only knew the physical benefits, or rather, I knew the physical achievements that the body can get from doing yoga, like getting more flexible or body contortions or whatever it is. I didn't even think that there would be an aspect of yoga where actually the body can heal from holding certain postures or breathing in a particular way. So when I had my injuries, I continued with my yoga practice, and I think that's when my understanding of the practice started to change. It of course started with doing some physical movements that helped me strengthen my muscles, that helped me release any kind of muscle tension and start feeling the body getting back to its mobile and flexible, self that it was earlier. And also the aspect of breathing, which was what I think I was restricting because of the pain in my body. So I had to learn how to breathe through whatever discomfort I'm feeling, and then that also brought about a lot of release. So apart from this, I have also, from the time I was younger in my school years and college years, I've also had a lot of anxiety over things, like maybe pressure of performing, or general life situations, that would bring about some kind of feeling of uncertainty and unease in the body. And I think when I started practicing yoga, I realized that I almost stopped developing, or I almost stopped feeling anxious altogether. So again, I understood much later that it was actually the postures and the breathing and movement which had helped me, because I had almost forgotten that I even experienced anxiety. It was like a very big part of my identity when I was younger, and I thought it was very natural and a very normal thing, to feel anxious for a prolonged period of time until it, whatever the situation just passed and it automatically went away. I thought that was a very natural thing that was happening to me. And after yoga, after my practice, and after a few years of practicing, I realized that I wasn't even experiencing anxiety anymore. So then I was wondering what changed. I don't even remember what exactly changed. What did I do, or what did I not do that made me stop feeling that way? And that's when I realized that I think yoga has been uh, like it's brought in a complete change into my internal system as well. So something has definitely worked with my digestion, and it has balanced out my circulation, it has balanced out my respiration, and obviously the only thing I could think about was my yoga practice and the kriyas, also a few breathing techniques that I learned through the Art of Living programs as well, the different kinds of breath modulations, even that helped. So I think yeah, for me, I've understood yoga to be as a healing because of what I have experienced in my own personal life, which is why I decided that I wanted to present the yoga practice as a healing modality rather than just looking at it as a physical form of exercise, which of course it is great if everybody could have that form of exercise going on, but also practice it from this angle as well and actually experience healing happening in the body. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great to know, because I think most of us, through our personal uh, incidents and experiences, take the path that we take. I think there were three important things I picked up from what you just shared. One is the first context where you were also into athletics and other things when you had the injury, and then you took
Yeah.
to yoga. The one about breath and working with the breath, and of course about the healing aspects of yoga. So if I can start with the first part of what you shared, one thing we hear these days in the popular um, notion of yoga is that, okay, if you want strength or if you are an athlete, um, you need to maybe do more of gym or other things. So
Hmm.
as somebody who has explored many of these and also had a background in something like athletics, how do you now, from today, look at the relevance of yoga for a person, perhaps for a sports person, let's say?
So I think to be a sports person or to take some kind of sport or be an athlete or to do any kind of sporty physical activity of that magnitude, you definitely need a body that is mobile, like general mobility in the body. And I feel yoga is a very important form of exercise to maintain mobility.
Hmm.
So, it's like there are the asanas that we practice help you to keep your hips or your joints, the joints of your body mobile by bringing in just enough of stretching or the flexibility and also building some kind of endurance against the resistance. So when you're doing any kind of forward bending or lateral bending or any sort of bend, you're working against the natural resistance that the body is feeling at that point, and you're gradually actively stretching out those muscles. So I feel like all of this is very beneficial for people who are into running or any particular sport, or for that matter, any kind of strength based exercise where you're picking weights, you know, working on that kind of muscle contraction and stability. I feel like yoga is a very good balance to help you retain the mobility of your body, and maintain the flexibility of your muscles and the ligaments and these connective tissues and everything. But I think understanding the right amount of how much you need is very crucial from what I can see these days, that people who are bodies that are overstretching for some reason where you're not sensing the resistance can be dangerous actually. And then on the other extreme, if you're not stretching enough, you're not reaching your full potential with all of those movements and you're letting go in between, then I think again that's causing some sort of tightness or tension to build up in the body. So I feel understanding and having that balance is important. And yoga itself helps you develop a better self. I think your self awareness gets better through practicing. So one understands what they need at that point, depending on the lifestyle that you're, opting for, or if you want to get involved with a lot of other activities, if you want to include strength training, you want to maybe start cycling, biking, or you want to get into some sort of sport. I think having a good understanding of what your body needs, what sort of yoga practice your body requires at that point will be a good way to go about, balancing all these activities together and using yoga as a form to benefit
Yeah. No, I
physically.
think
Yeah.
that's a very important point, because sometimes when people hear yoga practice, they have one
Yeah.
standard notion. Okay, there are these 10 steps,
Yeah.
5 sequences to do. But I think what I'm hearing you also speak about is, there are different ways in which yoga can be practiced. And if somebody requires strength, there is opportunity for that also. I
Yeah.
think sometimes when we speak about yoga therapy or yoga as healing and all, it also sometimes I feel people tend to misunderstand. Are we discounting the strength aspects of yoga also?
Mm.
But I think the core is that there is a personalized aspect which one needs
Yes.
to keep in mind. And the
Yeah.
second thing is, since it develops self awareness, it could also perhaps help people who are in sports or any other discipline also to understand what's the appropriate practice for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, in that respect, when you had the injury and when you started this, did you have this confusion whom to approach, what kind of, because there are so many styles of yoga available all around. How did you end up choosing the path that you chose? Who was your teacher, or where did you learn from?
So actually, when I had my injury, which was in my knee, I did not have any idea where to go. So I actually ended up healing on my own, because I had this injury at a much earlier stage when I had not completely decided to get into the teacher trainings itself. I had completed one round of teacher training in Bangalore here in one of the studios, and right after that, I developed this knee injury. So I think that was at a phase in my life where I was deciding whether I can even get into this path, if I can even continue or proceed with teacher training courses itself, because I wasn't even sure whether I would be able to manage with the intensity or the rigor or whatever of the whole process. So I ended up taking a chance and anyway continuing with my teacher trainings, and I I think I healed on my own, because when I got introduced to I-YT and yoga therapy and enrolled into my teacher training course with I-YT, it was much later, much after I had recovered from this knee injury.
Right.
So, my understanding of how yoga can be a therapeutic practice or the way it can be personalized to somebody's needs, requirements, all of this happened much later when I was doing my yoga therapy training under IYT. Prior to that, with my own injuries, I think I have pretty much healed on my own, if I can say. It took time, and I think I would say a lot of my own self awareness helped me,
Hmm.
maybe from the fact that I was always a little bit more reflective in the way I approach anything. I kind of take a step back and I think about, okay, what has caused this injury to happen, and what I can do to now prevent it from getting worse. And in that process, what can I apply to make it better? I remember having a conversation with my physiotherapist way back when I had this injury. He told me only two things. You're going for your teacher training to Kerala. This was the teacher training in Shivananda. He said that one of the two things will happen. You'll go there, the yoga practice, the climate and everything will either heal you,
Mm.
or it'll get worse and you come back. That's it.
Mm.
But I would leave it to you, go and just figure it out, because you're a yoga teacher, you know your body better. I'm sure you can go there and understand your limitations. If the teacher's maybe expecting you to do something that is going to be uncomfortable, you can always express you can disagree or whatever to do it. So I took that risk and I went for continued my teacher training, and I obviously healed. So the yoga practice that I was doing there, of course, quite to quite an extent, I followed whatever what was being taught, and I tried to be a little careful as well if there were any balances like headstands or any other risky postures were something that I was just trying to practice maybe by the wall or be a little careful with it. But I think what I realized, the overall benefit of yoga, I think just it just healed me. Whatever practices I was doing there, whether they were stretches or a few of the strengthening practices, maybe the diet. I was obviously eating sattvic food, and we were doing a lot of philosophy sessions, and there was chanting and so many other things also going on in that training. Plus the weather, maybe the climate of Kerala, probably the moisture or humidity or something could have also helped. I feel like it was just holistic, something just changed in that way, and I was a lot better. And then after the training was done, of course, I continued to do a few specific physiotherapy exercises with some resistant bands and things. And over the course of time, I healed from it.
Okay.
But my understanding of yoga as a therapeutic practice happened only much later in my training, which is now I can sort of piece things together now and understand how I healed through yoga.
Great.
Yeah.
So when you did decide to, so your first experience properly when you were learning was with Shivananda and
Yeah.
tradition, and then
Yeah.
whom did you learn with for your yoga therapy?
My yoga therapy was, I had learned from an institution based out of Vancouver in Canada. The teachers, so she's the director and also a very important, she's the main teacher of that program. Her name is Maggie Ray. She studied under Desikachar for a long time in her 20s.
Mm-hmm.
When she was in Chennai and she was learning yoga therapy directly from the Krishnamacharya's lineage. She studied there for a long time, and she was, in fact, when she finally, completed her time there and she wanted to pursue further, Desikachar sir told her that I think it's time for her to open up a studio and teach these practices. So that's how she started the school in Vancouver. What I really liked about the institution is that they are also the Eastern philosophies that were taught in this course were all being conducted by a couple of teachers in Chennai
Mm-hmm.
who work for this studio. I mean, it's not a studio; it's like a small little place where apartment where they conduct classes, and that space is called Yoga Rakshanam. So two of the teachers who are in charge, they are also direct students of Desikachar. And they conduct philosophy classes of teaching the Yoga Sutras and chanting of the Yoga Sutras, basics of the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic chants as well. So they conducted the Eastern philosophy courses that happened in Chennai. So I really liked that part about the program, that the faculty were all people who were experts in their subject within yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it all came together as a good program where you're learning from the best from all the teachers from all the fields under yoga. So so that was the program that I and they were of course under the C-IAYT certification, so it sort of followed a curriculum and everything for those 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great to know. And I think learning with the right teachers itself is a grace and a luck factor these days too.
Yeah, I think getting introduced to a lineage is also something I really valued about this program, because understanding the origin of how these practices started and why, and who are the teachers who began, and I think getting an introduction into a lineage and being a part of that larger family was something I really valued. And I find, I consider myself quite lucky to be a part of this lineage. So I think that was a good opportunity
Yeah.
that I got from this program. Yeah.
So, from what you're sharing, you got introduced during your training into a very diverse set of practices from yoga, asana
Yeah.
in the therapeutic form, chanting, some Jnana Yoga, the textual learnings, Yoga Sutra study. So, is there any practice that you personally connect with? As every practice I know can be transformative, but is there something that you connect deeply as something that really is transformative for you along this journey?
Yes, I think so. Certain pranayama practices definitely I reach out to, and I now in this stage of my practice, I lean back more towards pranayama practices that I really feel regulate my mind and bring about that immediate mind body connection and self awareness that tends to get lost during the course of the day. Also, chanting has been a very powerful practice because it's first started with chanting, learning basic chants that I picked up from the course itself. I think the purpose of those chants were more to improve your breathing. So a lot of those chants were focused on just regulating your breathing, ensuring that you're able to inhale a longer breath to be able to exhale out and chant. So it had a more therapeutic intention behind all of those chants. But from there onwards, I was just generally very, I think, drawn towards the calming and relaxing and meditative effects of chanting itself. And that's when I even approached a teacher based in, I think she's based in Bangalore. I'm not sure where she's based out of, but she was doing a lot of Vedic chanting with people over video calls. So I connected with her and began learning some chants from a book, just to continue and keep the practice going. And I also attended a workshop earlier in this year where I learned to chant I think it was one part of the Shri Vidya called Kala Vahana, and that was my first introduction into Devi chants, which not just, I mean, I don't think it was only for breathing and therapy purpose, but it was, a introduction into quite powerful chants that are directly connecting to the energy centers of your body and making it a very different practice. So I think I've been quite uh, interested in chanting, and I have seen the benefits that it's had on my mind and also with my health. I'm sure it has contributed to amazing benefits like improved immunity and also with my keeping my anxieties also low. So I think chanting has been a very important and powerful practice that I'm currently leaning more towards when I do my own practice.
I can totally relate to
Yeah.
that in my own experience with learning with KYM chanting and now continuing with Sujaya ma'am.
Yeah.
I don't teach chanting as much, but I do practice it for myself. And as you
Same here. Yeah.
sometimes, but another thing I really noticed and which I found interesting is while we are now learning all these from different teachers, when we go and look back at some of our traditional rituals, like even Sandhya Vandanam or things like that, it has all the aspects integrated. There is asana, there is
Yeah.
pranayama, there is chanting, everything is integrated. So I think
Yeah.
in a way, hopefully, learning differently also now can help us to integrate it in our offering to our students.
Yeah, I think that's what we should also do because, I think when we talk about yoga being a holistic practice, it's about experiencing it also as a holistic practice. So it's not, of course, we are looking at, I mean, I think as yoga therapists, we have the advantage of looking at each person's journey as a separate one. So where they are at, we start them off from there, and then we introduce practices little by little. And I think when we start offering them all these aspects, all of these, tools, and give them the holistic benefit of it, they also start receiving it like that,
Yeah.
and they will start experiencing it differently. And I think it will be an automatic continuation of that kind of journey.
Mm.
So it's about the way we are also offering to people. And maybe the chanting, of course, will never be very difficult chants right at the beginning of a person's journey. So we start with basics of chanting, but we allow them to experience it. We
Right.
allow them to understand how it's benefiting them, so that they take to it on their own and they continue. And I think that's happened with me as a teacher as well. I have had students who have actually never done any chanting at all, maybe not even Om chanting before.
Mm.
And some of them have gone for classes, yoga classes at, to certain studios and with learned from teachers, and they've not even done Om chanting as much. So they have never experienced what it's like to sit with a chant, to hear their own voices, to modulate their voices, to breathe a certain way while chanting a word or a sound. So when I introduced it to them, there was a little bit of resistance, here and there, with just feeling some kind of discomfort. But when they realized the benefit of it within just a few sessions, they were actually more keen on exploring that, because they felt like, it was missed out earlier. And there's been no conversation or any curiosity also. So that is very interesting. Some people want to intellectualize these things. Why are we doing this chant? What is the meaning behind it? Is it going to make me feel calmer, or is it going to, nobody is asked, because I feel a lot of people are actually, they're internalizing. And I think that's a very natural thing we have to also encourage as teachers, that everything need not be intellectualized and you need not have meanings to what you're doing, but you can just internalize it and take it as the experience of all the other things you're doing in your yoga classes.
Correct.
So, yeah.
I remember this one interview Deshikachar gave long back, where he was sharing his experience of being in US at the time of September 11, and he said
Mm,
I think he was in New York or somewhere, and he went to a park apparently after hearing the news, and there was a lot of heaviness in general, and so he
yeah.
sat in one place and started chanting.
Mm,
And when he opened the eyes, he saw so many people around, and everybody was in a certain very quiet and silent kind of a space. So I think one of the things I love about
wonderful.
acting is also this cross-cultural thing. I mean, it's just sound, and the power of
Yes.
the sound without, like even when I did a retreat in Turkey few years back, there's a lot of demand actually for a chant to be
Yes.
shared, because I think people can just listen and receive it fully in some ways.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that's also one of the core parts of our yoga tradition. I think it's good we are speaking about it because it's not as much discussed or known, I feel. Uh,
True.
so you did mention about anxiety and other things and how yoga helped you through that. And one of the things that we see a lot these days are one thing leading to another when it comes to health issues. And one of
Yeah.
the things which has really impacted a lot of people with the changing lifestyle, a sedentary nature of the IT work and other things. And in general, I think movement has come down for most people on a daily basis. And
Mm.
one of the first, not first, but one of the main challenges most people face is around gut health. And I'm also sharing it because I know you run a program around it for individuals who are looking at it. So my question is twofold. One, when you do this kind of personalized teaching, which is not really the popular version of yoga, how do you find it receptive? Because you are based in Bangalore. Is it being received, and is there a, uh, to put it in a very plain manner, is there a demand for it from people? And secondly, more specifically regarding the gut health kind of specific programs, do you find those kind of programs are gaining more traction when it is more specifically articulated?
Okay, so the first part is about the private training, right? Private classes.
Uh,
I, in fact, I think since the pandemic, there has been more demand for personal training, because people are feeling more comfortable with having somebody be available, completely for them, because they've realized that it's, of course, group classes have, they have benefits of socializing and things. But I think when it comes to your own learning, especially if you have got some kind of difficulty, maybe you're not able to understand what to do, or you don't understand your body, you don't know your body's limitations as yet, it can actually be quite harmful to be in a group setup, I also, from feedback that I've received, people find it also psychologically difficult to deal with the competition and everything of being in a group setup. So there were multiple reasons why personal training, I think, became more in demand. And people are taking to it very well, and they prefer to have the comfort of one person taking care of their needs, physical, emotional, mental needs, through their practice, without having a group and without having all those other aspects. So I think post the pandemic, there was always a demand for it, if I can say, but since the pandemic, it has only increased.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
And the gut issues, yes, in fact, I was surprised by the number of people who were inquiring about yoga for gut health.
mm,
I think that's when I thought about it and realized that this is actually the need of the hour, because most people are now realizing that they're facing serious gut issues. And a lot of them had actually no idea that they've been dealing with it for several years.
mm,
I'm talking 10, 15 years. People have been dealing with IBS and issues like that for 10, 15 years, having no clue that they were constipated every morning because of IBS constipation. So many of them said things like they thought it was very normal to be constipated every morning and to not have a bowel movement, or just feel lethargic and tired, and not be able to digest things, and they thought it was a very normal thing. Sometimes you just end up not being able to digest or not having a bowel movement.
so just
And then,
just sorry to interrupt. Can you also
yeah.
elaborate on what is IBS for those who might be listening and who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so it's basically just like IBS is translated as irritable bowel syndrome. um, I think it comes in either in the form of severe constipation, or it can also be the other spectrum where there is loose, like diarrhea sort of, bowel movement. So, and there are people who go through both.
Mm,
So it can be, it's like some sort of inflammation that is happening in the gut, and it can go both ways.
correct. Yeah.
But basically, the understanding is that the gut is just not it's not functioning in a balanced way. There is something constantly triggering it, and the understanding is why is it getting triggered, and what is triggering it. So it could be food, or it could be something that they're doing, maybe some activity that they're doing, some stress level that has gone really high, some kind of lack of sleep, or maybe in some cases, some people are having a lot of medication, and maybe the medicines are causing some sort of different effect. So I think the understanding with irritable bowel syndrome is that there is some disturbance
Mm,
in the gut, which is causing some sort of an extreme reaction to either be constipation or diarrhea, or a combination of both. So, and there have been several reasons for why this is. I mean, when I started speaking to people and getting a little bit of like a medical background on how it started, there were many reasons why people were developing this issue. Some people were saying that it was to do with increased level of stress. Some people were talking about some kind of hormonal change in the body, maybe post delivering. If they've delivered a baby, post delivery, there has been some sort of change there. Some people have said the diet changed. There was a student who was actually in the 20s in engineering college, in a hostel or something. So he said that his diet drastically changed from what he was eating in his house to what he was eating at the hostel.
okay.
And within 6-7 months of eating that food, he developed a severe gut issue.
Mm,
So there were many reasons why people were developing IBS of different kind and different intensity, also at different levels. So it was interesting to know the number of people who are dealing with gut issues on a regular basis, which is what inspired me to think about yoga as a form of exercise to consider. And of course, I am trying to modify it to a person's needs. So depending on the way they developed IBS, depending on what their current situation looks like, depending on what all lifestyle changes they should be making, to improve their health. I'm trying to fit yoga practices also to suit their needs.
Great.
Yeah.
I think two important aspects for those listening in to this conversation. I think one is about I might not even be aware what's
Hmm.
happening to the system and whether it is normal or not. I think that's what you're sharing. Many people don't even recognize that, oh, I had IBS or this is not normal. And I think as therapists, we see this very often and with most people who come with at an aggravated stage of any condition, right? They feel that, oh,
Yeah.
this level of pain is fine, or this level of headache every day is okay, or not sleeping well is
Yeah.
the norm. So I think one of the things that yoga helps with is the self-awareness to even distinguish that, oh, I'm moving away from my optimal way of being, and this is
Yeah.
something I need to address. And
Yeah.
I think that's very critical for us to know. And for that, I think the personalized interventions really help to understand
It does.
what it helps. Great. Um, so, anything that you would like to share with the listeners about as a therapist? Is there any one small thing that can make a big difference for anyone who is seeking better health in their lives? It could be a
Um,
practice, it could be anything else.
yeah, I would say that, life, like, I think for your health, for optimal health, exactly what you said, right? That um, the awareness of how exactly can you make your life better overall. It's not just looking at it as only doing some sort of physical exercise, or you can't just basically depend on one thing. I think it's a combination of multiple things which gets you to live a fulfilling and optimal life. And I think that's what I keep talking to people about, that it's not just about showing up for your yoga class, doing your practice for that 1 hour in the morning, but then the rest of the day you're just letting completely loose. And that doesn't mean I'm not only talking about physical act, not doing much physical movement, but even the way you think about things, the way you're approaching situations in your life, the food choices that you're making, uh, the activity choices that you're making. I think all of those things also need to be looked into. I'm not saying you need to live your life in a structured way, but I think awareness gets you to a place where you're making appropriate choices for that time. I am not living a very rigid life either. If I feel there are some days where I want to, maybe just go for a walk downstairs instead of doing a yoga practice, I opt to do that also. Sometimes if I want to, do some sort of, some other activity which will make my mind feel better, maybe instead of doing a long meditation, I cut short my meditation, then I spend some time drawing or painting or doing some other form of another kind of therapeutic activity. So there's no rigidity in on the path of yoga. I think it's about the awareness of how to kind of live your entire day in a way that you're always in balance, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So choosing the kind of foods that help you stay fresh, stay mentally active, feel good from within, negating certain foods that's going to bring your energies down or slow you down, or make you overly excited and hyper about something. Just making better food choices so that you're feeling better in your body. Limiting whatever you like eating. Maybe you enjoy eating a bit of sugar in a day, but keeping that to a certain limit, or finding some sort of alternative to sugar. Just you're just making healthier choices. And that also applies to the way you interact with people, the way you're choosing to handle challenges in your life. And yoga is such a beautiful, practice, because yoga has all these philosophies and certain ways to look at, relationships and challenges in life. So how do you, sort of go back to that thinking and apply that in the time of need? Quieten yourself down when you're feeling that there is some anger or something, boiling up in your body. Just how do you regulate your emotions and handle the situation in a better way? So these are things that you're literally, as human beings, we have to deal with every second of our lives, and any one different decision can completely change your balance, throw you off your balance. So with awareness, with compassion for yourself, with enough understanding, how do you make better choices, and every moment how do you constantly ensure that you're feeling balanced and you're feeling well, and you're doing your best through your day. I think that's the only suggestion I give. It's not about having some sort of fixed yoga practice going on. It's about living yoga through your entire life, um, which is, yeah, the only thing that I try to do as well. So it's what I suggest to people.
That's a great way to and perspective to hold. What is also popularly called
Yeah.
yoga off the mat, not just
Yoga off the
the mat.
mat. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think, but no, the reason I asked is also because sometimes, as you said, when we give a name like a, let's say, gut health program or diabetes countering program, there is a pull people feel. But I think I find that oftentimes the framing of the person coming is also, oh, I am going to get something which is going to address this condition. But from a
Yeah.
therapist perspective, we are still looking at the whole person. We are not looking at that condition alone, because it's not, we are not equating the condition with the person, right? So
Yeah.
we look at the food, lifestyle, everything else.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it's important to clarify that as the perspective to hold. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's been great speaking with you, Prerna, and a lot of things new and insightful that you've shared about your own journey and how you look at your practice and what you're seeing around in terms of health. One last question for perhaps anybody listening in who is considering yoga as a profession and a career, because you are one of the younger therapists who are doing it full time, professionally, and in a very structured, methodical way, even without getting yourself burnt out, if I can say that. So it's
Yes.
also very rare amongst yoga teachers these days. So, what would you advise or recommend as a suggestion on how to go about it for anybody who might be considering, should I switch into this as a career?
I mean, that's great. If more people could be part of this community of teachers who are teaching yoga to heal, I think. I think it'll be a wonder. It's wonderful for a person to go through the yoga therapy training itself, because you will know. I mean, the transformation it brings about in a person's understanding of life, and we can have these type of conversations, and look at yoga from this holistic viewpoint, which I feel sometimes with the regular teacher trainings, I'm not too sure how holistically they are viewing yoga as a practice. There is still a little bit of a, I think, focus more on the physical aspects of it. So yoga therapy that way sets you a little apart, and then you can be a part of this community where we can have these kind of conversations, and maybe even help each other out when it comes to catering to students and to their needs, and we can have this guidance from each other also if we're blindsided by a few things. So I think, yeah, I definitely recommend a yoga therapy training for yoga teachers who are already teaching, and and also for people who are not in the path of yoga at all, to consider something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining on
Yes,
this
thanks for having me as well.
Yes, and I hope maybe we can have some future episodes where we can explore more specific themes apart from the
Definitely.
matters. So, if anybody would like to reach out to you for therapy consultation, what's the best way for them to reach you?
As of now, my Instagram page is quite active. There are also a bunch of links attached to the page, so they can always book a consultation call with me, or straight away try to reach out through my through DMs. So my handle is Yoga with Prerna. Yeah,
I
you can
can
find me there and just get
mention
in
that
touch.
in the description of this podcast also, so people can
Yeah,
navigate.
yes. So you can just get in touch with me directly.
Yes. So, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Prerna, and hope to.
Yes. Thanks for having me as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.